And we're on. Hello and welcome to podcast episode 80 of Rope-a-Dope Boxing, where we bring you another In Conversation episode. And today we are joined by the Midlands area champion, the Celtic Banshee herself, the very talented Jessica Barry. Jess, thanks for giving up some of your time, mate, on this Sunday afternoon. Very much appreciated.
No problem. No problems. It's always nice.
Go on.
So it's always nice to talk boxing.
Definitely, mate. I just said off air before we came on, Manchester United are playing at the moment. Anybody that's seen any interviews with Jessica, she's a massive Man United fan and Celtic. We will get into that a bit later, but we'll crack on a bit earlier so she can go and watch at least the second half for what it's worth, mate. So, again, thanks for coming on. I'm Dave. My co-host there is Dave. So, yeah, what I normally do is we'll go back to the start of how your journey began as a pro boxer, what the future holds for you, and a few certain bits about boxing, how the general state of it is, and a few predictions and thoughts on a couple of big fights that's coming up in the future. So I will crack on now. So where did it actually start for you, Jessica? Where did it start actually putting a pair of boxing gloves on, mate?
Started about 10 years ago. So when I was, well, that's not true actually. So when I got into it about 10 years ago, just to get fitter for football, literally it was just to like lose some weight and get fit. But I did go to the odd boxing session when I was a kid. But then again, that was just for like a little bit of fitness to complement football. I never actually thought I'd actually like be here where I am now. It was literally just down a gym. I did a few white collars because I just ended up loving it. Then I went into the amateurs after a few years. But like I said, never had any aspirations or ambitions to be where I am now as a pro. So it's pretty nuts to think about it now.
Yeah, so you started off playing football, did you say? Did you actually play any sort of like amateur, semi-pro sort of? I
played football from the age of 8, so played it up until I was about 20. I literally only stopped football because of boxing. Okay. So played for like almost 20 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you chose boxing. What was the reason you chose boxing anyway? Is it because there was more love for it, or fancy the change?
No, I was doing them two alongside of each other. Like some days I was playing I had like a sparring camp on a Sunday. Like I'd be, I don't know, in quite far away, like all morning sparring, and I'd be playing in the FA Cup in the second half, playing for Solihull in the second part of the day. And it was too much. Like I couldn't do it all at the same time. So that was the only reason I stopped. But to be honest, it's because I was not talking about it not long ago in a podcast saying that when you like lose at boxing or you win at boxing, that's down to you. That's down to how hard you've worked, and no one can take that away from you. But you could put your all into a football game, but it doesn't mean that the rest of the players are going to do the same. And I used to get frustrated with that. So like all the hard work is all like it's all yours, isn't it? When you box, and I think that's just what I loved about it.
So there's other players basically letting you down. You felt like you was putting the graft in, you weren't getting the rewards.
Yeah, it isn't all that makes out like it sounds like I was like the hardest working on the pitch. It wasn't always the case. It's just I just realised like the difference that you can feel from like a solo sport. I do like running, I race as well. Like I had cross country yesterday, and it's just a different kind of achievement. Like when you cross over that line, or like you beat your PB, or like when you win a fight, it's just a totally different feeling to like winning a football game. And I think that's just like it's just the adrenaline, it's that rush of that winning, and that's just what I'm chasing all the time, and you just don't get that same thing at football.
Get it, Dave?
Yeah, you touched on there about you went into the amateurs. My son's an amateur boxer. He's only 13. He had his first fight a couple of weeks ago, a skills bout. So I'm fascinated with the amateur scene. Because my son's in it, but and he done pretty much like what you did there. He was doing football, and then he gave up football because he wanted to do boxing. He wanted to concentrate on boxing, and that's all he does. And it's brilliant. So he's doing well. But yeah, talk to me about your when you went into the amateurs, how you found that.
So I'd not long moved to Coventry, and I'd messaged the club, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know. I think you better come down for a session to see whether you can kind of handle it." Straight away, I seen that message, and I was like, "I'm not going there." So I found another club because I was like, "You can't even write me off before I've been." And I found another club. I found Christ the King, and it was literally 5 minutes away from my house. and it was so tough, and I just absolutely loved it. It's probably, I'd say, it's probably the hardest amateur club in Coventry, like training wise. It was so tough. Some days I'd be coming back and I'd just be like, I couldn't get out of the bath afterwards. It was just such hard work. But I was there for quite a while, like maybe 5-6 years. It just become like a second home to me. But you're saying about your lad, like I was my sparring partners were all like the 13, 14-year-old lads, and they were just mega fast, mega sharp, and it was a big eye opener for me. But it definitely, my amateur club made me the boxer I am today.
Was it, you mentioned, you just mentioned there about white collar. Was it white collar amateur then pro, or was it the other way around with you?
Yeah. I didn't have many white collars. Like, I literally only got into it, and someone was like, "Oh, you should give this fighting a go," and I thought, oh, I don't know what, why not, kind of thing. And just kind of went from there. But when I wanted to take it, like, actually I want to box, then that's when I went to the amateurs. So I was probably training at the amateurs for a good year and a half before I even had my first bout there.
So what about your style? I've seen YouTube videos of you. Most people speak to you. I've seen YouTube videos. You're quite an aggressive front-footed, stalkerish kind of fighter. So I'm guessing you would have done that in white collar. You learn X amount for X amount of weeks, and then it all goes out the window when you get in the ring. How's that kind of changed? Have you changed from white collar to amateur to pro? Was that always been your kind of style? I know it's a bit more point scoring, isn't it, in the amateurs? So it's your style basically changed? What I'm asking.
Yeah, so when I started boxing at white collar, I was useless. I used to take a load of punches to the face. I wouldn't even call that like a particular style. But when I went into the amateurs, I was at an amateur club that were particularly are known for like their aggressive, come forward, like boxing. So we were just super fit. Like, we'd never massively work on much on technique. We were just super fit, and our sparring would just be like 100% all the time. So when I kind of went into my first few fights, I was really overpowering the girls, just like going in. And I think I stopped my first few just from scoring more points. I wouldn't say I was particularly moving my head very much. I was probably getting punched just as much, but I just seemed to be scoring more, holding the centre of the ring and just pushing the girls back a lot more. And that's kind of the story of my whole amateur career. My whole 19 fights. My only fight that I lost was my last fight, my 19th. It was in the elite finals, and that's probably the first time I really started to box. Probably the best of box. So yeah, it was a good amateur career.
Did you do skills bouts? Like I touched on my Sunday. Did you do skills bouts first, or I don't know, that's a fairly new thing. Is it straight into bouts?
Because I was a senior, I was 24 maybe.
Yeah.
23. I just went straight into bouts. Yeah, but I think I'm really good with skills bouts. I watch a lot of skills bouts. Like, I'm around a lot of amateur clubs and still go to a lot of shows now. And I think if we'd have had skills bouts before we had fights, I think it would have just made everything a lot better when you do finally go to have the fights, because you're getting out that like mad ring nerves first.
Yeah, no, because that's what my son, he fought in Portsmouth. He was on an away show, and there was only like a handful of us that went, but the whole crowd was for the other guy that he was fighting. I mean, when they announced the other kid's name, is the whole place erupted. My heart sort of sunk for him for his first fight. But that sort of skills thing gets all that out, you know. It is very good. I mean, they signed him off after one skills bout, but so he's done very well. So his next one is about, but yeah, I think you're right in what you're saying. I think at a certain age they do it to a certain age with skills bouts. So you'd have been a little bit older. But what made you decide to turn pro then? So you had 19 amateur fights. You said there. When was the decision made to do that?
So after my elite finals, I was invited up to GB up in Sheffield to have trials, and I went up for a few different weeks. But I was doing a degree apprenticeship at the time, but I've always worked full time, so I was like having to take weeks out of work to go up there, and I was also doing like my degree in between. It was a nightmare, but I was really loving it. Like, to me, it realised like I want to be training all the time. Like, I absolutely love this. Like, I got to train 3 times a day, but I was buying a house, and I was getting married in a year or so. So I was just like, being up in Sheffield isn't really the life that I wanted. Living there Monday to Thursday, that wasn't me. And I never like thought when I went as an amateur, oh, I'm gonna ever turn pro. That was never. I just never even thought about it. And my old coach, my first pro coach, had kind of mentioned it to me, and I thought, yeah, do you know what? Like that, everyone always said when I trained and I sparred, oh, you spar and you fight like a pro already. You train like a pro. Like I was working, but I was training before work and after work every day. So I just thought, yeah, why not? Like, let's give it a go. And I got really excited for it. So,
was there any names? Name names, but he was in. You just mentioned he was in Team GB. There was there like around about that time. Was there like any like Sandy Ryan, Chantel Cameron, these girls knocking about?
No, because it was not long after the year after COVID. So, it was the year if I went into the elite. My first ever elite was the year that just after COVID that everyone's got to box, and a lot of people had started to turn over because no one was boxing, but the pros were still boxing, weren't they? So
Yeah,
I was pretty lucky. Like in COVID, I was being asked to. It was when Rachel Ball was fighting for the world title against Shannon Courtney, so I was being asked to go and spar her constantly. So I still had good sparring like over that time, and that's where I started to get the love of like the long hard rounds, you know, like with the real tough girls, and that's where I thought, yeah, I wouldn't mind a bit of this myself, like, but when I was doing my trials at GB, it's just a lot. It was just mainly all the girls that are there now, so they probably aren't any of the ones that are pro now. No.
Yeah.
It would have been Robert McCracken and that down there when he was down there, wouldn't it? Does he run it down there? Did he?
Yeah. Obviously with the girls, so we were dealing with like Amanda a lot. So
yeah.
The Katie Taylor influence, obviously with female boxing. The stories going around about her. She's an icon. Everything she went through, pretending she was a boy, going into the gyms. So going into the gyms, as you turn in pro, or even as an amateur, what was the relationship like, or the attitude from men towards women, or yourself in like? Was it a bit intimidating, or was it like they didn't give a shit, or what? How was it, man?
So I don't know if it probably could have been. It's probably intimidating to a lot of girls, but like I used to play football from the age of 8 with lads, and I was an electrician, so like I did my electrical apprenticeship 15 years ago. So being like
around men.
Yeah, I've always been around men. So like being in a building site at the age of 16 when there's like no such thing as women on building sites then, that like walking into a gym full of lads like didn't even faze me. Like to be, that's kind of where I'm comfortable. I mean, it was hard because obviously there wasn't many girls to spar, but I think what I don't like, that I think like at my club now at Upper East Side, I think my coach and my manager, he always thought he had to treat the girls differently. And I was a bit like, I think he realised in the last few months, actually, we don't want to be treated any differently. The reason we're in the gym, we don't want to be treated differently in front of the lads. We're like, we're all equals. Like, and at Christ King, like they never ever treated us any differently. They treat us exactly like the boys. And I think that's what I've always liked, because you don't want to be treated any differently.
No, totally get it. I bet. Have you got any sort of sparring stories with the men? Have you any of them down, or you don't have to mention names? But I am intrigued with on this podcast. We're quite very heavy on women's boxing. We do talk about it a lot. We preview and review all the women's fights as much as we can. So I have got a soft spot for women's football. My daughter plays football. I go and support. We sponsor a player from a local football team where I live up in the Midlands. So yeah, please tell me you knock someone out. I'll geezer out anyway.
I've made a few teenage lads cry. And I did, like, one of them I didn't feel bad about because he was a bit of a bully, and I think my coach purposely put him in there with me, knowing for a while that he'd come out like absolutely destroyed. But I've equally had a few like beatings from the lads, but they're the teenage lads. They don't know any different. Like it's always the case. Like they'd go away for the 6 weeks holiday, the ones I'd always spar, and then they'd come back and we'd go back to sparring, and I'd be like, hang on now, they're hitting way harder than they ever used to. But they don't know how to tone it down because they're just kids, you know what I mean? Where the lads, I spar a lot of men now. Like I still spar Niall Berry, who's a brilliant boxer in our gym. But he knows how to tone it down. But then he equally, like, if I'm starting to do well in the spar, he'll soon let me know who's the boss, kind of thing. He'll soon put it back on me.
So you're the Midlands champion. I've had a look at BoxRec and some news surrounding yourself. You're fighting Chelsea Arnold. Is that next month in Birmingham?
Yeah, 1st of December, so 3 weeks today.
Yeah. ranked number 1 is Kirsty Hill. So I wasn't so much doing a bit of matchmaking, so I was looking at the rankings and whatnot. So obviously the plan would be to beat Arnold, and would you then go and take on the number 1 in Kirsty Hill? Because if you look at BoxRec as well, Kirsty Hill was like ranked number 10 and you're ranked number 20, and you know how the algorithms work. You get in with her, you beat her, you become top 10 in BoxRec. So you're more or less a ranked fighter. So if you, I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but that sounds quite exciting. So yeah, how come you're taking on Arnold anyway, rather than Kirsty Hill, because you're ranked number 2 in the UK?
So we are hopefully fighting for a title, but it's just not been obviously signed off or confirmed yet, so we can't really say too much. Or I don't want to get my hopes up and make out like we are, but hopefully fighting her. But the reason that I'm fighting at featherweight, so I am ranked under super featherweight.
Okay, sorry, from the weight below. You're
yeah. I shouldn't
really. What
be
title you've got now?
At the Midlands. So I vacated it because I weighed in light for that. So I think that was a kind of a proof that I should be at featherweight. The problem was I was always a lot of girls on some shows, they get day before weigh-ins, and that's a given. I've not had day before weigh-ins. We've always been on shows on same day weigh-ins, so you can't manipulate your weight the same. So I've always just come in at the weight that like I come in, haven't cut like water or anything. So when it came to my first ever title with Becky Ferguson, when it comes to actually like cutting weight and having a day before weigh-in, like I was like, I'm coming in quite light. So I am small anyway at that weight. The plan was to never stay at super featherweight. Really, I should be fighting at maybe. I'm going to see how I get on at featherweight, and then I'm probably going to go down to super bantamweight.
Okay.
Because I'm quite small. Like I'm only 5'3", 5'4". So yeah, I want to see whether I can kind of get down to that weight in the next year and see what titles and stuff like that. Like I'm probably looking at more like Stevie Levy, maybe Tyson Gallagher, even the girls.
Aren't
they? Yeah, even the girls at the featherweights. Between those two, do you know what I mean? That's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at super featherweight. It's not the right weight for me.
Dave.
So you obviously said you were going to go down in weight. How do you? So I take it you don't have to cut. You haven't had to cut weight and had to drain yourself down to make this. Are you going to have to do that now?
Yeah, not any more than what I was doing there. So I was cutting weight. Like obviously you always have like the last week, and I don't find it easy even to be at the weight that I am now. You have to train hard and you have to diet hard. But I'm not pushing any more at the moment. I'm coming in at good weight, and then the last week. The last week's always tough, but I won't be killing myself to get to that weight. So might well be killing myself to get to super bantamweight. I fought at that weight as an amateur before COVID, and Jesus, it wasn't nice. But if that's what, and I've said that to John, like my manager, I was like, if the titles are there, I'll make the weight. But when you're fighting, when you're not finding out whether you fight, who you fight until the week before you fight and stuff like that, I was like, John, you can't expect me to make that weight. But I'm always motivated to train. I'm always motivated to fight. But when you're killing yourself and you're working on full time as well, when you don't know who you're fighting at what weight, like a lot of my fights, I've made lower weight, like just under super feather, and then I found out like I'm fighting a lightweight because that's who was all that was available, and that's why I am ranked at what I am on BoxRec, because I was just having to fight higher girls all the time.
So you're fighting in December in a few weeks' time. I'm guessing you're in camp. So how are you finding camp along with, say, making weight, cutting weight, your work-life balance? I'm guessing your gym work. I'm presuming you've got a job as well. How I bet that's hard at the moment, isn't it? Especially if you've got a life as outside of boxing as well. How you manage to still juggle all 3, 4, 5, 6 sort of aspects, you know?
I just manage. Everyone always says to me, like, I don't know how you manage to, like, I was just since May I was having a house extension done, and I've been doing it all myself with my husband and my dad. So I've been doing that around my work and my training. Like I train twice a day. It is madness, but I just manage. And I do feel like I've been in camp for a while. I'm always in camp. I don't ever see myself outside of it. Like I'll have a week where I train less the week after my fight, but then I'm straight back in the gym. I'm always ready. So like I feel like I could take a fight at any time. But yeah, so like tomorrow morning I'll be up and I'll be working by 6 a.m. Then I'll be in Birmingham training at 8, work a bit in between in Costa, and then I'll go to training at like 10:30. come straight home, work till about 5, then I try to get out like for a walk in the evening, and that's pretty much how my day goes every day. Yesterday I had gym in the morning, like intervals and stuff on the bike, and then I had a cross country race in the afternoon. I was sparring this morning, so like, I'm absolutely knackered.
I saw that on Instagram, mate. You're making me out of breath just listening to you.
I got the gym tonight, so like I'll watch football in a bit, and then I'll drag myself to the gym tonight. So I mean, generally, I love it. Like I couldn't imagine not doing it. So it isn't a chore to me. But we definitely I get weeks, like especially now coming up, because I've had 2 dates change, and I've been in camp since June, so I'm knackered. Like I'm starting to pick up little niggles. I'm waking up tired. Do you know what I mean now? So, but that's always, you're close when you're feeling like that.
I'll let Dave come in a minute. Sorry, mate. I just wanted to talk about, you said you vacated the belt. I didn't realise then you'd vacated doing my notes and whatnot. How was that a big decision for you? Because I will ask you about belts a bit later. Obviously, it's an area belt. It means a lot to some people. For you not to then defend the belt, was that a matter? I know you said about the weight cutting and whatnot. That's obviously your health is a priority, but being a champion, vacating your belt, someone else to come along and take it. How was that a decision for you? And as well, you're not the A side anymore. When you go to your next fight, you're going to be in the A side of the money.
Yeah.
Big decision for you.
If someone straight away said to me last week or in the last few months, "Can I fight you for your belt?" I would have fought them for it. No questions asked. I haven't technically vacated it. If anyone wants to fight for it, they can, but no one's come forward. So on to the next. Like literally, my hands raised on that fight, and then I'm thinking on to the next. I'm not even thinking about defending the belt. I mean, when you get the better bouts where you're actually going to earn some money from them, then it's a bit different. You want to be when you want to be defending it and stuff, but there's no one really to defend the bout against at this point. But yeah, it's literally, you just think on to the next. You don't even think about it like that.
Yeah, it's interesting in the mindset. Yeah, Dave.
What is it you do for work, Jessica? Is it you as an electrician? Are you an electrician? You work on a building site?
I used to be, yeah. So I was an electrician for quite a few years. Then I went into electrical and mechanical engineering. And then I did a BMS. So I did apprenticeship in that, and then I did a BMS apprenticeship. So apprenticeship in like a degree one. So I was doing like controls, writing software, writing graphics to make heating and ventilation systems work. So so now I work for SSE Energy.
Oh yeah.
So I work in sales, which I never ever thought I'd be like in sales. So I'm a sales engineer, and I go into like big businesses and quote them work and design them projects to make their energy bills come down by like creating software and graphics, and basically fitting like little hive systems that you have in your houses on a massive scale in big buildings and like hospitals, manufacturing buildings like that. So it's really good because the main reason I went into that like a new role is because that it's got the only like you can't be an engineer and have a flexible working around you sparring and stuff. But my work now, SSE, they're really, really supportive. They say you can train and work as long as you get your work done. You work around your hours. You just manage your own time and you make it work for yourself. So I'm really lucky in that way. But it's just as much work. Yeah, I mean, it's a graft, but I do really enjoy it. And I couldn't not work. I think, like a lot of people say, "Oh, is your dream to be full time?" Then, and I was like, I mean, it is in a way, but my work and my career is always the biggest thing for me before I ever boxed. So I've worked just as hard to get where I am in my work as I have boxing, and I just feel like I couldn't walk away from that as well. I feel like I'd always need to work in some kind of way.
Yeah, because I see something on there about the BMS engineer, because I'm a mechanical project manager working on the building site. So we would have crossed paths with you had you been on site and doing the BMS, because we do all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm a plumber by trade myself, so I've always worked on the site. So that's what I wanted to ask you, how you were working. I presume that was what you were still doing, but I wanted to wonder how you worked around that, because I'm on site at 7 a.m. Sometimes I don't leave at 7 p.m, and I couldn't imagine training after or before that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so it's quite lucky now. So like I'll go into the people and kind of I work around my meetings. Like I'll like book in a meeting maybe at 2 o'clock if I'm training in the morning, and then I'll come back and I'll quote all the work and design the work, but I could be doing that till like 6, 7 p.m. But so I just make it work. But as an engineer, I could never have done that. I could never have sparred in the week, and like training as an amateur after work was a killer. Like it was an absolute killer. But
I can imagine. Yeah.
So you mentioned there about jobs full time and whatnot. So what is the plan? What is the long-term goal? What is your ceiling, or don't you know? I've sort of took out a bit there that you'd love to do boxing full time. Of course you would. But what is the future plan, Jessica?
So I never really look at it like a long-term like plan. I'm always kind of just thinking, what's the next fight? What's the next fight, and what can I achieve in that next fight? So the thing is as well, like I'm 30 now, and I got married last year, and my husband, he wants kids in like a few years' time. Like, and obviously I do as well, but at the moment, what's putting that off is that I want to win more titles before that. I'm not saying that I won't box after I have kids, because I don't know. But I don't ever want to look back and think, oh, I should have achieved that, or would have achieved that before I've done that. So I mean, I'd love to win the British and the Commonwealth and the European, and I'd love to fight on big stages on TV as well, like before I retire and stuff. So that's just kind of what I'm looking at. I'm just trying to take one title at a time at the moment, and then see when I'll get to a point where I feel like, yeah, I'm content now. I'm content that if I decide to leave my career here, then that's where it is. But I don't get like too hung up on like this title or that title, because I've had so much heartbreak in the last year of boxing, and you've got to have a lot of money behind you. You've got to have a lot of support to get you these bouts. So I'm not even going to try and make myself believe that I could get there. I'm not saying I couldn't. I'm not saying that I couldn't work hard enough or be talented enough. Like I might be lucky enough one day to be asked to be on a big show against someone, but I don't know. Is the honest answer. Just don't know.
But mate, to be fair, you more or less answered my question, because I was going to say, what if you did have an opportunity to win the British title?
Yeah.
You win the British title, you've got that, you've locked that in. Do you say to yourself, right, I've achieved more than what I hope to achieve? I've got a British title, one of the best titles you can have.
Yeah.
Spend it 3 times to keep it, and then you get an opportunity comes for the European title.
Yeah.
You go down that route. Then you might have a fringe well for the IBO or something like that. So I mean, you mentioned having kids. If that is the plan that's put in front of you, you could be looking about 40 years old, mate, before you start having kids. Do you know what I mean?
And that's the hard thing as a female, isn't it? Like, but then also as a female, you do seem to move quite quickly. Like, if you do well, you can either be really static, like what I have been a bit over the past few years, because I've had a lot of pullouts and a lot of shows cancelled. So you sometimes don't proceed as quickly as you think you're going to, but then everything happens for a reason, and I probably wasn't ready for certain things at certain times. So like I'm just taking it a year at a time at the moment, seeing what comes about, and I'll just have to see. Do you know what I mean? Like,
what's sponsorship like for you? Is it easy getting sponsorship and whatnot, or
I don't really push it too much, to be honest.
No.
Like I have been lucky enough to have sponsors help me out, and like I just about sometimes break even with it all. And obviously, I could always do with more sponsors, and I'm hoping my work will start sponsoring me soon. But because they're such a big company, it's a bit hard for them to start sponsor. It's like they're too big, so they're trying to find a way around it. But like they'll sponsor me through buying like tables, tickets, and stuff like that, which helps even just as much. But because I've had a lot of shows cancelled and a lot of fights fall through, it's like sometimes I feel a bit. I don't really put myself out there for the sponsorship, because I just feel like, what are they getting out of it? Do you know what I mean? But I shouldn't feel like that. But I'm quite self-sufficient and independent. I quite like to do a lot of it all myself, and I don't want to go out asking for the money. But I just feel like I can do this myself, kind of thing.
It's interesting because I follow a lot of the female boxers on Instagram and Twitter and whatnot. And I see some of the posts that are asking for, some of the girls who are asking for sponsorship money, because they need to have like sort of brain scans before they can be past fit to go to fight. And some of them's like £300 plus other costs. And I'm thinking, wow, yes, you're not even.
Our medical bills cost about £1,200 a year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's crazy. I see.
I
Sitting on my arm and watching it, I don't think of those things. You know,
I don't even get paid that for a fight. Even if I sold like 100 tickets, you don't even get that. So, Yeah, there's no. I'm not doing this for money, really. I'm doing it because like, of legacy, and I want to achieve something before I finish. But
That's crazy,
yeah,
isn't it? And you put this
there,
life on the line as well. That's
and like I lose out on work, so I do a few. I've started doing slightly reduced hours at work, and it actually costs me to box than it does. Like, because I've got a good career. I think I'm the only person in the gym. I'm up against all these. I train alongside some brilliant boxers, but they're all full time, and I'm the only one actually losing money being there.
yeah. At least you can laugh about it anyway.
Yeah, I have to.
Dave, anything career-wise before I introduce a little bit of football and then we start talking about boxing bits and bats?
No, you carry on, mate. No, it's really interesting to listen. Yeah,
Definitely. So I just want to talk about football just quickly. I looked, obviously follow you on Instagram. I realise you're a Man United fan. Looking at some of your interviews and stuff, but to look at your Instagram, you'd never know. It's literally plastered in Celtic. So I wanted to bring Dave in here because Dave's a huge Celtic fan. However, he hates Man United. So I don't know how you wise. If you want to have a discussion about football, I mean, I know Celtic are playing at 3:00 and you two can have a bit of a discussion there. But yeah, it's two Celtic fans on the same show, mate. I just thought I'd throw that one in.
yeah. I was going to ask you where your Celtic connection comes from because mine comes from my dad. My dad's from Glasgow, so
Yeah.
so he's Celtic mad. So yeah, I was interested to hear your take on it because you're the Celtic Banshee is your name, isn't it? So I wanted to see where that came from.
So to be fair, I was only ever the Banshee, and I think the Celtic Banshee or the Celtic Banshee, however people call it,
Yeah,
that was kind of just a nickname that has been given to me, and I've just acquired it without realizing. I think it appeared on a show once, and it stuck. But it never came from me. I've always been like Jessica Banshee Barry. But yeah, like so, my family are Irish. Well, half my mum's English and that. My dad's side of the family are Irish, and they come over, and that's so my granddad just started supporting Man United. So growing up as a kid, I was always Man United. But I did always have a love for Celtic too. Obviously, that's come all from my granddad's roots as well. But I'd say probably I go to a lot more. Well, I go to way more Celtic games now than I do United. So my husband, he's a massive Celtic fan. So but when we met, he'd been like a season ticket for like 7 years. One of those that goes up on the bus like for 7 hours and comes back for another 7 hours every weekend. But so we go up together a lot. And I think for me, over the past few years, it's just because I still love United and I watch United all the time, but I get more out of going to watch Celtic. So like the fan base, and I can afford to watch like get tickets easier. I just think the fan base there is just brilliant. And I think they just make me a little bit prouder at the moment. So I mean, I just love football in general.
Yeah.
Like this morning, I was up eating my breakfast before sparring, like watching match of the day. I could watch any games. Like I'll go and watch. I live in Coventry, so I'll go and watch Coventry play it now and then. I just love football, to be fair, but I do love going up to watch Celtic and United.
Yeah. So Celtic, they've got the best fan base in the world.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I mean, and to be the Celtic Banshee, you know, if you get them fans on board, you'll be the new Ricky Hatton. But yeah, I mean, the dislike for Man United comes from the fact that I'm an Arsenal fan. So you're Man United and Celtic, I'm Arsenal and Celtic.
Yeah.
Arsenal have been shite the last few weeks anyway, so I've not really known anything to write home about. But yeah, like you said, I mean, I've only been to a couple of Celtic games myself, but I say it's an amazing fan base, and if you could get them on board on your career, it would be great.
Yeah, I mean, and I have a lot of people follow me through Celtic on Instagram, and I get a lot of them like support me and message me. It's great. I get way more of that through Celtic than what I do for United, which just speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do tend to have a lot more support.
They will follow you for even if you're wearing green. I mean, I know Celtic fans that won't have any blue in their house and all this sort of stuff. They're staunch, and if they get, like I said, if they get behind you, it'd be an amazing thing. But yeah, they're great. I say I've been to a few friendlies. Celtic fans like they'll go to anything. I went to Rangers Celtic B, and they more or less sold out the whole stadium for a B game. Like they're just like I say, then There was a time and place where I think Eddie Hearn was saying that to get a football team, get a back in a football team, like Josh Warrington with Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
If you get Celtic, it'll be off the scale.
Yeah, and you do have to start thinking about these kind of things as well. Like, have your own little niche with boxing, because, like you say, it is about the fans, and you rely on the people supporting you, because you can't. I wouldn't have even got where I am today if it wasn't for the certain people that support me and get behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to get the Irish club in Coventry to start sponsoring you and take it from there.
Yeah, I got sponsored by the 4 provinces, so they sponsor me. Yeah, so they sponsored me for a St. Patrick's fight that I fought on back in March. Well, it would have been in March, yeah, on a dinner show. Then it was that was a great one. So they sponsored me for that. So and then there's another Irish pub in Coventry that have sponsored me as well before for a fight. So yeah.
That's where it starts. I was going to interject, same as you, English mum, Irish dad, but the connection was Glasgow Rangers. So moving swiftly on.
Yeah, we will move swiftly on. Yeah.
Thoughts on a few things, boxing. Me and Dave like a moan and groan on his podcast, mate. And something that does come up a lot with women's boxing is the 10-2s. I want your thoughts on the 10-2s. Do you think the women should be doing 10-2s, or do you think you should be doing 12-3s, 10-3s, even 8-3s? Because I know a lot of the girls say they actually spar 12-3s in sparring. So yeah, what's your general thoughts on the women doing 10-2, especially in world championship fights as well, which I'm not so sure they should. I think they should be doing the 12-3s. But yeah, your opinions, mate, your thoughts.
Oh, well, where are these girls that want to spar 12-3s? Because I'd absolutely love that. But I mean, I would love to spar, to fight 12-3s. Like we do 2s, and I went from an amateur where I started to thrive at 3 minutes to back to 2s. And I think with the women, the women get saved by the bell a lot when it's to 2 minutes. You start to I could start to break someone down in that second minute, and then the bell goes, and then they're saved. And I just think the 3 minutes will really show the difference between the ones, the classy boxers that are like surviving. Well, not surviving. They're like the good boxers, but the 3 minutes will start to show who the people are really supposed to be in the pro ring, like who are the tough ones, and it'll make all the difference. So for me, yeah, I think definitely we should be fighting over 10-3s, 12-3s. Whether it will happen within the lifetime that I'm boxing, I'm not sure, but I would prefer it.
It's an interesting point you make there, because I'm going to ask you about a fight that's happening next weekend between Serrano and Taylor before I get your predictions. And Katie Taylor's, I'd say probably for the majority of her career, has got no interest in doing 12-3s, where Serrano has literally been the WBC belt because they wouldn't sanction 12-3s, and she's up for it. So yeah, it's quite interesting, Dave, isn't it? As well, we've had a few female boxers on, and they've all had different things to say about the 12-3s. Jessica's obviously in favour of it. We've had a few that's not too bothered about it.
Yeah, because we asked all the female fighters you have on this question, and we had Jessica Zapatochnia on, and she made the point that, well, we'd never heard before, and we have put it to a couple of our boxers, which she said, like you said there, she felt that if she was doing the 2-3s, she wanted to have kids in the future. She felt that she would put too much strain on her body, that it could affect her having kids late in the future. And then obviously we've spoken to other female boxers, but no, we want to do 2-3s. We don't think that's right. But yeah, she was more thinking of her future, and it was a take on it that we'd never sort of looked at before. Obviously,
the long-term damage on her body.
Long-term damage, and she felt that doing the 12-3s could push it excessively, because she said that obviously men are different to women, and she felt that could be an issue.
I mean, it's a fair point, and I do get that. Something I've never considered before.
Yeah.
In the end of the day, like, we have our medicals and we have our brain tests every year, and as long as they're coming back fine, I mean, there's an element of risk doing this sport. Like, I could have dementia and Alzheimer's when I get old because I box, but that's the risk you take, and you just think, I'm happy and enjoying it when I'm at the moment. I think some women, so that is a valid point, and if that's what you wouldn't want to do, then that's fair enough. But I think as an amateur, yeah, but as a pro boxer, like, it's a tough sport, and you're gonna put your body through a lot, and I think that's the whole point of it, and that's and as a male, that's like the ones that aren't prepared to put themselves and make themselves uncomfortable in training, they get found out over these 12-3s. And I'd like to see that with the women's as well. You see women just like start to nick fights that you think over 12 threes they definitely wouldn't win. But I think with like Katie Taylor, she's a typical one of those boxers. She's a bit more amateur style, in and out. Like, she does her work better over the 2 minutes, so she would prefer the 2 minutes. Like, I think she would start to get, as much as I love Kate Taylor, I think with some of the tough girls, she would start to get found out over the 3 minutes, the longer rounds.
Yeah, I think me and Dave agree with you there, mate. 100%. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute when we come to the prediction, because it's going to be a really good fight, I think, this coming Sunday. So, yeah, interesting points there, mate. Another moan and groan. It's not a moan and groan on a podcast, I promise you. Belts. I spoke about your belt earlier, how much it means to certain people, certain belts. But there's too many belts, in my opinion, in the game, men and women's. 5,000, whatever it is the last time I counted, if you want to go down the route of international belts, global, silver, franchise, all this nonsense. What is your opinion on belts? Because I understand that it does mean something to somebody outside of the four major sanctioning bodies, the main belts. But they're charging like 3% off you guys when as a pro from your fights, and that doesn't always guarantee you're going to get moved up the rankings. Doesn't it guarantee you're going to get a mandatory shot? So what's your opinion? Do you think there's too many belts? Do you think there should be one champion, one belt, one singer, one song? That's basically the narrative. I mean,
yeah, 100%. I think it's especially for females, it's causing too much problems. Like, you can't be successful unless you've got a load of money behind you. Like, even for the domestic fights, like even for the ones like the bouts at the Midlands, that you have to pay loads to even fight for. You have to pay fees, sanctioning fees for it, and like, I think you can't get too excited at my kind of level about these big bouts, because you think, well, where am I going to get the money to obviously like pay to even get hold of that, my hands on that kind of bout. And also, yeah, like you said, there is far too many bouts. People can avoid people and avoid the better boxers by going for a different kind of bout, and I just think it's ridiculous. Like you said, there should be only a handful of bouts at each level, and go that way.
Yeah, it's like, for example, just say you won a WBA global belt. Would that mean anything to you? Even though that WBA have just taken 3% out of your purse, off a female's purse, which is bugger all anyway. Do you see what I'm saying? That sort of belt. You look at, I've got that belt, but what does it really mean? It's a ranking belt. Bin it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Will it be anything personal to you? And I didn't mention that because of you having that Midlands area belt. But obviously, we talk about area belts, English titles, British, Commonwealth, European, which does have a good, especially in the UK, good affiliation with meaning. And you defend it 3 times, you get to keep it. It's a beautiful belt. It's got a lot of history. So yeah,
the levels, obviously, the Midlands is great because it means you're starting to get that 10-round experience before you then go on to the next bigger ones. And I think you need that. Like, so you need your area belts, and then your English and your British, and you need those belts. I do think it's a bit mad when like people are defending like multiple belts or having 3 belts all on one fight. You'd think with you having your British and your Commonwealth, it should be like kind of one or the other. So I don't really understand that, because they're like 2 totally different bouts. You should kind of like vacate which one you don't want and then go on to your next level. But saying that, like, I can happily sit there and say, oh yeah, there are too many bouts, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, any boxer that can get their hands on a bout, or they get the opportunity for a bout, they're not going to care. They want to be able to fight for it. I think it more, to me, it depends on, it would matter to me against who I was fighting for that bout. So if you're fighting a nobody for a bout, I'd be not that bothered, to be honest. But if I knew that I was fighting someone really decent for a bout, then I'd think more of it.
Yeah. Dave, are you still there? You've gone dark.
Oh, have I? Yeah.
Just going to add in for the belts there. An area belt over a global international WBC franchise bullshit belt. Jessica singing off the same hymn sheet.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, you get a globe. I mean, I thought the globe was the world, and you've got they're just making up as they go along.
Yeah,
global, so
it's
all just to make money. Yeah,
they're picking bouts fighting, like, because they've got people, like some people that like girls or males. They've got like big promotions and a lot of money behind them. They're like, oh, they can win that bout, but then they're getting someone who's an absolute nobody barely won any fights, and they're like, oh, we've won that belt. Not really. Who have you fought against? Who have you fought against for it? Fight someone decent for it, and then you can start showing off your shiny belt kind of thing.
Yeah, somebody that is trying to clean up the sport. We think he's trying to clean up the sport, especially belts wise. There was an announcement this week. Turkey Al Sheikh, I'm speaking about, is involved with the Ring magazine belt, trying to make that number one. But belts aside, Turkey Al Sheikh, Saudi Arabia, the Riyadh season, massive change, massive influence since they've come into boxing, to the sport of boxing. Do you think it's good or bad for boxing, Jessica, while he's here? Are you enjoying the Riyadh season? Are you enjoying the best fights being made? Or do you think there's an alternate sort of, not alter ego, that's the wrong word. Do you think there's another sort of agenda, if you like, why Turkey's doing this or Saudi Arabia doing this? So yeah, good or bad, basically.
Just money, isn't it? There's always an agenda, and the agenda is always money. So
Yeah,
they've got their totally different agenda. I mean, at the moment, it is making really good fights. So for fans, yeah, it's brilliant. But for me, well, are they going to have just as many females on these shows as they're going to have males? If they aren't, then I'm not really interested. Like, they should be equally trying to make female boxing up to the same standards, and that's what I'd be more impressed by. Not like all these massive shows in Saudi.
Yeah, because I'd flagged this when he's come on the scene on the podcast, and I know he's had one fighter on there now with Sky Nicholson, but I feel like I feel like women's boxing since he's come around, as it was flourishing, and I feel like it's gone downwards a little bit because the focus is now not on the women. There was a big focus on the women before, and I feel like he's put this one fight on it. I don't think he's really interested in it. I know
he's putting it on because he's got to.
Yeah, exactly right. And I as much as a fan, and the fights that are being made are fantastic. For the women's, I feel like it hasn't helped them at all. I mean, it's hard enough for you guys to get fights as it is, get your names out there and all that. With down. So yeah, it's great for the males, but I feel that it's going to suffer for yourself. I really do.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. No idea how long it's going to be around. The vision is 2030, Saudi vision. All eyes on the kingdom. All sorts of sports are involved, and tourism and things like that. So as long as we've got him until 2030, and we've got more female fighters on big Riyadh cards, like it's just said there, we've had Sky Nicholson on against Raven Chapman, whether it was peer pressure or not, he has done it. So it'd be interesting to see the next Riyadh card and the next season how many he does put on there, because you've got like Clarissa Shields, who's a name. You've got, especially in the lower weights, Gabrielle Fundora, who we're massively high on here. She's knocking out girls in 2 minutes. She can be the next face of boxing. So there are a lot of options there. There is a big pool and there's a small pool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and why not? Because there are there's
some talent out there.
Some not great fights, but then there's also not great fights in the males as well. But there's equally some really entertaining and great fights for the females. So why not if they're making out like it's about having all the best fights and the most entertaining and best ones to watch, why not put those women on those shows?
Totally agree, mate. Talking of the best fights, just mentioned there, Taylor versus Serrano, part 2. They're going to roll it back this Saturday night, early hours Sunday morning for us here in the UK on Netflix. I don't know if it's part of a subscription, or I think I saw it's $6.99, whatever it is. I'll be watching it. I want your prediction on the fight, but firstly, the first fight a couple of years ago, I thought Serrano nicked it. A lot of people had Taylor, a lot of people had a draw, super close. That's why we've got it again. So how did you see it go the first way, and how did you see it going this time? 2 different weights as well. I think this is a super light, isn't it, rather than light this time?
Yeah, this is a super light, which would probably go more in Kate Taylor's.
Serrano's jumping up from your weight, super feather.
Yeah,
so.
And I think she even used to fight
feather, because she's supposed to have ducked Sky Nicholson. So yeah, she's jumping up like this.
Yeah, I mean, the longer Kate Taylor seems to be going on, the more scrap she seems to be getting into. So I think I kind of, when she fought Chantal Cameron, it was a bit like I kind of always thought, I'm Katie Taylor will probably win, but I thought if anyone will stop her, it'll be Chantal Cameron, and that kind of proved that you can't really have your predictions on these fights, because they seem to just go. They could go either way. They seem to be really close, and it's different kind of styles. And even if you feel like a fight went in a certain way, the judges and the scorecards don't seem to always be the same. So I think it's just really hard to tell. Like I said,
She won the first fight. Yes. Sorry, did you think she won the first fight, Taylor?
Did I what?
Did you think she won the first fight between her and Serrano?
I don't. I think it was very close. Yeah. I think it depends what you like. But it isn't always like about that, is it? It's just different, slightly different styles.
Well, we think it's going to go a little bit different this time, Dave, don't we?
Yeah, I love Katie Taylor like everyone else does, but I see decline in the. I do see decline. She was based on work rate, and I feel the back end of the fight she's starting to slow down.
Yeah.
And that's probably a reason why she doesn't want to do the 3-minute rounds because like you touched on it there earlier in the podcast. There, if she was doing 3-minute rounds, I don't think she'd have had the career she had.
No,
because I don't think she could do them based on her work rate. And for me, at this stage of their careers, Amanda Serrano does the rounds better, and I think that might be the telling factor in the fight. So she's had a few close ones as well. Delphine Pursoon as well. That was a close one.
I thought Delphine had that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people did. Yeah, so I just feel like at this stage of her career that she's starting to decline, and I think Amanda Serrano will win the next fight. Let's say she does 3-minute rounds in other bouts that she does. I just feel she does the rounds better. I just see that she's slowing down Katie Taylor. So yeah.
Make your prediction then, Jess. Go on.
I reckon probably Serrano. The way things have been going for Katie Taylor in the last few fights, I'd say maybe.
Yeah. I think we're all in the same camp. And on that's the undercard. God help him, for Jake Paul against Mike Tyson. If you could have a rant and rave about that, or are you happy about that? I'm going to save my rant for next week's podcast, so please tune in.
Rant and rave. Oh, do you know what? I feel like I used to rant a lot about all this stuff. It's like frustrating because these people. I was like, people come in, they throw their weight around and they get paid more in one fight than I'll ever make in my whole career. So I used to get really frustrated by it, but then I think at the end of the day, he must be getting up and training just as much as I do and doing the same thing. He's just talked his way to get in that place, and that's not something I'm prepared to do. So whatever, you know what I mean? That they crack on. But I love Mike Tyson, so I'd love to see him put him clean through the ropes.
I totally agree. My son said this to me this morning about it, and I said I really, really hope he's 58 years old, but I really hope he spanks Jake Paul.
Wipes the floor with him. I hope
so.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping for that. So it should be interesting. Lastly, talking of rematches, December the 21st, Riyadh season, Usyk versus Tyson Fury, the rematch. I'll ask you the same question I asked for the Serrano fight. Who did you see winning the first one? I'm a staunch Usyk fan on here, so he could fight Godzilla and King Kong in the same day. He's always win for me, but it's nice to have other people's opinions. So yeah, did you think Usyk won the first one, and now do you see the second one going?
Yeah, I did.
Tyson beat him the second time. The guy's a genius.
I did think he beat him, and I thought it was wicked to watch. I was always used to be a massive Tyson Fury fan, but the more he started to retire and come back, and it really just made me think, kind of make your mind up, kind of talking the talk, and I think Usyk's brilliant. I just think he's such a character for boxing as well. I'd like to see him win again, and I think he will. I think he just has that little bit of edge at the moment.
Yeah, he's a special fighter, isn't he?
Yeah.
Special fighter, mate.
Great to watch.
Take them.
Pardon?
Say that a bit. Catch you then.
I said he's great to watch. He has been great to watch the last few fights.
His whole career since he's more or less burst on the scene,
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely, mate. Dave, do you want to add anything there before I sort of wrap this up in a minute?
No, I don't think we've really touched on Jessica's pro career. Obviously, you've had 6 bouts, 5 wins, 1 defeat. How did you take the first defeat as a pro? I mean, no one likes to lose, obviously. And did you take it as a lesson? Is it something you took away from it, or?
So I've always been a very come forward boxer stick to the really simple things. When I start to think in the ring, things start to go wrong. I just do what I know I do best. When I listen, I'm very good at listening and doing as I'm told. And in that fight, she's much taller, longer, rangier boxer than me, as they always are, tend to be, especially when I'm fighting that weight. That was another one that got fell through, and then I was desperate to get on another show, so they put me on this other show a week later when the fight fell through. Got her last minute. She's a bit heavier than me, but taller, huge compared to me. And I tried to, for some reason, the game plan in the corner was to try and box her. Why? I don't know. Never been able to box before. Against a taller, rangy, longer person. And if anything, it just taught me I need to not do that, and I need to stick to what I'm good at. And when I stick to what I'm good at, things seem to go much better. So I was gutted. I was really gutted. Really bothered by it. But I remember Sam Eggington in the gym. He messaged me afterwards, and he said to me, "Remember that feeling, and then now you'll know what you were actually in the gym training for." And I said, "Yeah, to never feel like that ever again." And that's the difference. So yeah, I mean, it was disappointing, but at the same time, I learned loads from it. I learned not to ever stand off a boxer because that's not where I'm best.
Yeah.
So now I knew for next time, and sometimes it's best to learn that the hard way, early on in your career, instead of like, I don't know, my next title fight or in your first title fight kind of thing. So,
Well,
I mean, nice, but
there's that the cliche, isn't it? Is like you learn more from your losses than you ever do from your
yeah.
victories.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, you broke it down there exactly what you said. I mean, she's the longer range of the fight. You want to draw her into a dog fight, but do what you do best and make it uncomfortable. It's very much like we touched on Joshua Usyk there. Everyone was talking in the first fight for Joshua Usyk. The game plan was to box Usyk. When that's not Joshua. Joshua's a wrecking machine. Go in there and then that was what he was meant to do in the second fight. He did try, but Usyk's on another level. But so yeah, it's very much like you said. There, you should have drawn into a dogfight. Have you ever thought about wanting to avenge that and get in there with her again and have another crack?
So John was like, maybe we should, but obviously she's a lightweight, super lightweight. Yeah. So it's just like kind of pointless. I mean, the box of like the kind of person that I am, I'd want to go in there and have it for a second time, but I'm also realizing that the reason I have a manager and a coach, mine knows both of them, is because they make these decisions for you, because boxers will make all the bad decisions, and you keep
fight anyone, wouldn't you? That's the thing.
Yeah, I would fight anyone at any time, and I'd just be like, yeah, let's go. But you don't get a pro career, or you don't get a successful pro career out of doing that. You end up as a journeyman. So yeah. So I just listen to what I do as I'm told.
I did have it written down in my notes. Dave elaborated on the defeat, but I just couldn't pronounce the girl's name. So
the Vader thing, I don't know. But she went on to have quite a few wins after me. She is a good boxer.
Wasn't it very close between you two, though? Wasn't the score very like a split decision, I think, wasn't it?
It was a split decision, and I think it was like 58-59, but a few of my managers and a lot of the people there said they thought I had it. But I've never, I haven't lost, I've only lost 2 fights so far, but I would never ever stand there and say, oh, I was robbed, or oh, this, because in the end of the day, I make it my business to make it very clear to the referees and the judges that I won. And if you don't, then you're leaving it to go to the scorecards, and I don't think you should leave it to that. You should make it very clear that you're the winner. So I obviously didn't. So that's fair. That was what happened.
Yeah, it's what it is, as they say. We've had you for nearly an hour. Just want to wrap up. I had one more thing to ask you about the pro game. Katie Taylor obviously gets mentioned a lot with women's boxing. I just wanted your opinion is once again, mate. Who is the real GOAT? Is it Katie or is it Clarissa?
To me, it's Katie, just because of what she's done for boxing for females, and obviously like closer to home and stuff. But yeah, like just what she seems to have done, especially in the UK for women's boxing, it's got to be her.
Everyone goes Katie, don't they? Everyone, no one goes.
Maybe it's because she's not a gobby.
Yeah, like I say, Clarissa Shields is in it for herself, and Katie Taylor's done it for female boxers, and that's what makes her.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You're right. You're right. Anything else to add, Dave?
No, it's been brilliant. No, thank you very much for coming on, Jessica. You've been fantastic.
No problem.
I just wanted to add about your merchandise, mate. Very impressed what you've got. I've clicked the link. Egyptian collections. I've written it down. .co.uk. I love a baseball cap, mate, and I am going to go and purchase one of those fantastic baseball caps in all sorts of colours. I do like the beige one. Nice tracksuits as well. The nice green, Dave.
Yeah.
Earlier. Yeah, really impressed, mate. I thought I'd give that a bit of a shout out. EgyptianCollections.co.uk. Head over there to get your merch and your garms. Anything else you want to add, Jess? Any shout outs or anything before we say goodbye?
Just more to everyone that supports me, really. So, like, obviously, I do have a few little sponsors, but they know that I'm very grateful to them. But just more to every single person that ever buys a ticket, that I'm at that level where without these people buying a ticket or supporting me or watching me, I wouldn't be where I am and I wouldn't be able to fight. So, just want to say thank you to everyone.
Where can we get your tickets for your upcoming bout in December?
People can just give me a message on my Instagram, go through that way. But yeah.
Fantastic, mate. Again, echo what Dave said. Thanks a lot for coming on. Really enjoyed your company, mate. Wanted to get you on for a while. Next time, I hope there's going to be a next time. I want you to bring the British title on and flash it on the screen. The European and then the IBO for Inverell level, mate. But yeah, again, thanks a lot for coming on, Jess. Really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you. Cheers.
That's it, guys, for episode 80. Like, share, and subscribe on the podcast platform of your choice, and a 5-star review, as nothing else will do. Until next time, have a great week, stay safe, and enjoy the bloody boxing. Jess, you can go and watch the second half now, Man United.
That's out it.
Yeah.